We're on Twitch. Finally. How long was this going to end up taking us? I know all of last week we basically didn't do. We might have done one Twitch stream, but honestly, too many YouTube streams, okay? There's too much bots. There's too much spam. I can't stand it. I only did it because they were product unboxings, and those usually do really well, and people like the live unboxing experiences. And there are, to be clear, there are still some things I want to unbox in the edited format. It's just when I feel like the product isn't a big enough deal that no one would want to watch an unboxing. Like, I don't think it would be very interesting to watch an edited video of the SE being unboxed because we all know what it looks like. But if it's happening in real time and we're enjoying the unboxing experience together, and there's chat and there's questions and I can give you answers as I'm unboxing the phone as it's happening in almost real time, I think more people are likely to tune into that to just be like, oh, he edited a video and posted it of taking the SE out of the box. It already happened. There's no live time interaction. That's why I do the live unboxings. But when it comes to Twitch, this is more for discussion-based interaction. It's not so much for unboxings just because I don't know. It doesn't for these Twitch streams in specific. They do go on Apple Podcasts, so people listen to the audio forms of these, which means the visuals just kind of extra. It's there if you want to. If you want to watch them on YouTube, you can on the Talos of Podcast channel. But yes, the next YouTube stream, unboxing the box, something like the iPhone 12, I would probably do an edited video for, just because that's kind of a big, important moment. Or if I bought, I think I did a edited video for the MacBook Pro unboxing or the Galaxy Z Flip unboxing. That was stuff that I didn't feel like needed to be live. So yes, the dancing is pre-recorded. I hate to crush everyone's dreams, but Cooper Bomb, 112004, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 13 months. Appreciate that greatly. Let's get started here. So about the iPhone SE, there's a bunch of people that instantly pinged me as soon as Unbox Therapy uploaded his video, even though I've said repeatedly I don't do reaction videos anymore because they get too toxic too quickly. They attract YouTube drama and audiences that I'm not interested in bringing to the channel, so I'm not going to do that. But my only response to it is basically that I think he's making a very, very simple phone more complicated. I mean, and I feel like a lot of people misunderstood the video I made more recently about the iPhone SE switching from an 11 Pro Max. It's like, the point of the video is not the iPhone SE is bad. The point is, if you've been using phones like the XS Max or the 11 Pro Max for a prolonged period of time, and then you suddenly switch to this, that's going to be a massive downgrade, and you're going to feel like you're losing out on a lot of things. So in that video, the purpose was not to bash the SE and say you shouldn't buy it. The purpose was, coming from someone who's owned an 11 Pro Max, I'm frustrated, and this is annoying, and this is too tiny, and I'm not in love with the design. So that's the main point I'm getting at here. I would like to see a Talos of Tech versus Unbox Therapy or Linus Tech Tips boxing match. Yeah, no arguing, no debates, just straight out boxing. There's drama on YouTube? I know. It's happened before. It's weird. But I don't want more of it. Are the YouTube video podcasts dropping earlier than that on the podcast app? Yeah, again, I don't handle any of that, so I'm not the one to talk to about who published the podcast or who edits the podcast. There's audio things. That's all on Nick and Randy. So ask them if you have questions, or the @TaylosOfCast Twitter account. I don't know why the YouTube one's up now and not the audio format, but it's all on Nick. It's a fairly simple phone, I think, in the review format. I really don't think there's much to debate on. If when I do my review, it's going to be after I've used this phone for at least a week, probably longer. It's not that complicated of a topic. It's not something you have to do the don't buy or do buy. It's very simple. It's just, if the phone, like any phone, it's really not that different. If it prioritizes things you care about, you should get it. If it doesn't prioritize the things you care about, you shouldn't get it. It's very, very simple. It's no different from other iPhones. I don't know why we need to treat this one any differently. Or just any phone, not just iPhone, but anything. If it prioritizes the things you care about, that's when it gets a recommendation. And this, as I've seen, has prioritized a lot of things people care about. I am not one of those people. In fact, probably most of you watching this Twitch stream or most of you watching YouTube videos, you're more than likely not the target demographic for this phone. If you don't understand what this phone is for, it's very, very easy to hate on, which is why I get annoyed when we get videos like "Don't buy the iPhone SE" because that gets clicks and people like that. Apple bad. Apple bad sells very, very well on YouTube. Um, and the arguments people have against it are ridiculous. It's like, well, it's boring. It's the same old design. It's like you clearly just you're not getting this target. And it's not the same as me like critiquing like I was personally very, very aggravated and mad at Apple for the Mac Pro in the Pro Display XDR. And it's not because I'm not the target demographic. I think a lot of people misunderstood my argument as just I want the Mac Pro and it's too expensive and that's why I'm mad. That wasn't my point. My point was the Mac Pro became something that it wasn't. It does not target the same demographic that the old Mac Pro used to. They turned it into a completely new product category. If they wanted to tackle that, that's fine, but I don't think that the modular Mac Pro and the Pro Display XDR were filling the gaps of the products Apple used to have, like the last Mac Pro and the last, Apple Cinema Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt, it wasn't Thunderbolt 3, but the Thunderbolt display. They didn't fill those shoes. They tackled a completely different market, and there's people there. I understand that, but there's severely less of them than there were of the previous market of the Mac Pro and the Apple Thunderbolt display. Whereas this is not that same situation. This exactly caters to the same market that the last iPhone SE was catered toward. The idea was you like the old design. You don't need the latest phone with the latest, curved edges. You don't need the latest display. You don't need the latest features. You just want a phone that works with up-to-date specs, with an up-to-date CPU, and we're going to bring it to you at a reasonable price point. That's exactly what the last SE was. That's exactly what this one is. So if you understand what the point of the original SE was, this makes complete sense. This is not out of the ordinary. This is totally a move Apple should do. If you don't understand the target audience and you don't understand the purpose of this product, you would call it lazy. You would call it boring. You would call it a phone that could have been so much more, but it wasn't, or a phone that they should have done this with, or they should have done this with. If you treat it like a September iPhone, even though it's an April iPhone, you will get mad. I mean, the last few April iPhones we've had are literally just the iPhone 7 in red. The last time we got a spring iPhone that there was this major was 4 years ago, and it was the exact same type of upgrade we have here. The Cosminator, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 20 months. Holy cow. Watching Talos of Tech during math class. Oh, that's right, because quarantine. I thought you had me on the big screen. Let's see. No average person is even going to know what the Pixel 4a is. It will be, that iPhone is the latest, and it's just like mine. Oh, okay. Exactly. Like we've talked about before, this makes a whole lot of sense for parents, especially. Like my dad, anytime he uses an iPhone 10 or something with Face ID and gestures, he gets really, really annoyed because he's like, what's wrong with the home button? I don't care about thinner bezels. I don't care about bigger display. Just let the phone keep working. And this phone is going to be perfect for people like that aren't interested in having to relearn how they use their phone. And that's a big reason a lot of people won't switch to Android too, because they have to relearn things or rebuy apps and learn things all over again. And a phone isn't that valuable to some people. It's not something they're going to consider just because one has a larger display. They're not going to be like, well, I'm going to switch and change accounts and do all that. Not just parents, kids too. True. I bet kids would go with this. But kids don't need much to be entertained. I mean, a lot of people are interested and prefer this simply because it's new. This is literally the only iPhone that's come out in 2020. So that alone will make people think it's cool and new, even if you're able to find an iPhone 10 on Amazon or eBay for $300, which has happened. I'm not making that up. Nick bought one for $300 somewhere, and it's in good shape. It's in good condition too. And I would much rather use any gesture control and Face ID iPhone over this. I don't care about the A13 chip because personally, I think people over-exaggerate the differences a little bit year over year. I know the A13 chip may allow for certain things that the older iPhones can't do, but overall, just the hardware differences between this and an iPhone 10, that should be a good example because the iPhone 10 is pretty old. That's coming up on 3 years old this year, and this is obviously much newer than that. And you can probably find the iPhone 10 like for really really cheap these days because it's getting so old. And the battery life on the iPhone 10 isn't great. It's an A11 chip versus an A13. You know, there's no night mode on the iPhone 10. There's no night mode on this, but there is portrait mode on both in very, very different ways. And it doesn't have anything to do with OLED or stainless steel, just for the fact that I am not a fan of this home button mechanism. And I feel like multitasking with this form factor iPhone was much, much easier. It was way easier when we had 3D touch because you could instantly activate just by swiping, you could activate the multitask window. And now I have to double click every single time I want to switch apps versus my 11 Pro Max. From the bottom, I can just switch between 3 to 4 apps instantaneously. And this feels like more of a disconnect. You know, it's kind of the difference from using a keyboard and mouse with a computer versus using an iPad where you're just touching and interacting with the content as you're looking at it. That's what gestures feel like. Whereas this is this noticeable separation. You have your visuals up here, but now when I want reachability or when I want to activate Touch ID, logging into an app or something, I have to scan my fingerprint. It's like a noticeable disconnect, whereas Face ID feels more seamless because all I have to be doing is looking at the phone, and if I'm using the phone, I'm obviously looking at it. So it feels more intuitive to me. And having used this phone now for a few days, it makes me really, really hope Touch ID is not coming back in any possible way because I feel like there's just a noticeable disconnect, you know? Even if Touch ID was on the display, the idea that you have to touch the phone or touch the iPad in a specific way to authenticate or to register is way, way less intuitive than just the sensor's already looking at you. So you don't have to do anything differently. You just open the app and it already starts scanning and you're done. The thing budget Androids always get wrong is the processor. Those phones may look newer, but they always feel budget. And that's also why they will not get software updates as long. So that's probably the biggest compromise if there is someone out there. I don't really think most of the people considering the SE know about phones like the Pixel 3a or the 4a coming later. But yeah, that's no different though. Even if Touch ID was on the power button, it would still be another command. Like unless you just always use your phone with your finger on the power button. I don't. It makes more sense to me that it would just be Face ID. I don't know why you would need 2 biometrics. You're just asking for more authentication, I guess, at that point. But the biggest compromise with the SE versus something like a Pixel 4a would be the display because this is obviously very standard, very dated. But again, the target audience is not people that care about that kind of thing. You know, it's not 1080p, it's LCD, it's a 4.7-inch display. If you care about that type of thing with a display, this is probably not the phone meant for you. It's fairly simple to understand that, in my opinion. Do you not think Touch ID is more suitable in certain circumstances of people are wearing masks and may affect Face ID? I think that's kind of a flawed argument because if you're wearing masks, you should probably also be wearing gloves, in which case Touch ID isn't going to work that much either. So there are certain circumstances, yes, where Face ID doesn't work, especially if you're wearing a mask or, you know, glasses of some kind. But there's also gloves, and there's also, in my opinion, Face ID is more versatile because there's more chances of my hands just being wet or having something on them than there is something covering up my face. I find those situations to be more common, like just after getting out of a shower or washing my hands or doing the dishes. Now Touch ID doesn't work. Whereas Face ID works for me even with my face wet. Even getting out of a pool or a shower, I can still unlock with Face ID. So I don't really think it's that logical of an argument to say, well, sometimes people wear stuff on their face. It's like anytime they're wearing something on their face, there's probably something like in the cold or something and you're wearing a scarf and it's covering up your face. You're probably wearing gloves too. So Touch ID has all those problems as well. And for the longest time, I couldn't use Touch ID because I had psoriasis. I've been taking this new medication, luckily, that's worked really well. That's why my notch is gone. iPhone 12 may get a notch, but not Drew. His notch is all cleared up. But now I can actually use Touch ID the way it was meant to, which I never was able to because I've had psoriasis for ever since I had the iPhone 6 Plus, and the 6 Plus was the first phone I had with Touch ID. Now that I have it, I'm like, yeah, this is weird. And I feel like people were comparing Face ID to Touch ID the wrong way because a lot of people were comparing it as, let me press my finger on the home button and then click to go home versus Face ID, which I have to tap to unlock the display, which I think is a little bit unfair because it's assuming that your finger's already on the home button. Whereas on the iPhone, you're assuming no finger is on any part of the display yet. So the swipe up to go home thing is like Face ID just happens and you don't even think about it. Whereas this is like a noticeable, like, I have to touch the display here. I don't touch it here. I don't just raise the display up and it unlocks. Whereas on an 11 Pro Max, I don't even have to touch the front glass for the phone to unlock because it just has to look at me and I can raise to wake the display. Whereas this one's like, you have to very intentionally put your finger here. Let's see. Ethan Dabish. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. Appreciate the support. Why can't the Apple Watch just unlock the iPhone as a backup authentication method? I don't know if that compromises security a little bit, maybe? I don't know. But the gesture phones don't go to the home screen without a swipe, right? Right, but you don't have to press and hold the phone a specific way. Apple's very pro lock screen. That's the idea of Face ID, is that, you see notifications, but they're locked, and then it unlocks and you can see your notifications. So they don't want things jumping straight to the home screen. I agree it should be an option. I'm not against that. I think in settings they should let you be able to jump straight to the home screen if you so desire. But most of the time I barely even tap the display to wake it up. It's typically already on by the time I pick my phone up. So unlocking it with a swipe feels much more seamless than this disconnect here, in my opinion. Face ID, in my experience, has always been more accurate than Touch ID in unlocking the first time. Yeah, I know it changes person to person, but I generally agree. New iPhone will be an underrated feature. Yeah, the Touch ID is not going to be on the power button. No one's saying that, so I doubt it's going to happen. And it's been suggested since 2016. I've been seeing people say that. Oh, they're going to put Touch ID on the power button, and they've never done it, so I'm going to assume they're not going to. Well, I'm close to legally being an adult. I still have to save up, and I come to realize that while new design is great, I'll be coming from a cool design Android that is unbearably slow. I prefer the SE. Still got a sheet, but it's an iPhone. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the most common argument again for the SE, but it's an iPhone. So it gets that years of support, you get that ecosystem, and I think a good point a lot of YouTubers have brought up, I think Marquez said this in his video on the SE, is it makes the entryway of the Apple ecosystem way lower now. Because you don't have to say, well, get a really, really old iPhone or anything. It's like, people just sometimes like the fact that something's new, even if it's not better. Like, in my opinion, I would way rather use an iPhone 10 than the SE. Every day of the week, I would be like, please give me an iPhone 10. And people would be like, but that has an A11 chip. That's not going to get as many years of support. I'm like, I don't care. It has Face ID. It'll be less years of support, but it'll be better years. Because I don't want to use this Touch ID and home button for 6 years. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't mind upgrading my phone every year. Or even if I wasn't a tech guy, I would still probably upgrade my phone every other year. Or every 3 years. And I think the iPhone 10 will probably get another 3 years of software updates, more than likely. I don't think the A11 chip is that slow. But may I also remind you, because I see a lot of people, I think I'll have to do a video on this because enough people are talking about it. They want to compare this to the 10R, which is very different phones, because a big reason people would choose one over the other is probably because of just personal preference. It all comes down to form factor for the most part, but people like the size of this one, and the 10R is just too big. But people are like, this has a faster CPU than the iPhone 10R. And some people I even saw say this has a better camera. That's a very loose argument, considering this is legit the exact same camera in the iPhone 8. I think the iPhone 10R, I don't have one, so I can't really do a side-by-side comparison, but I think the 10R would probably pull in the lead in a couple of circumstances. But it has portrait mode on the front and back. And the A12 chip, you guys remember when the new iPhone 11s came out? The A13 was not like miles ahead of the A12. It was not one of those years where they just took a substantial jump in performance. In fact, a lot of the speed tests and Geekbench tests and stuff, A13 and A12 were pretty close. I know A13 is better, but my point is, I don't think that there's going to be a whole bunch of features you miss out on by going with an A12 on an iPhone XR that you're going to gain with this thing because it just has an A13 chip. I feel like when it comes to just day-to-day performance, it's safe to assume they're pretty equivalent. The only advantage the SE might have over the XR is, at very best, one more year of software updates. But in my opinion, if you're willing to settle with hardware like this, if you're willing to have a home button and Touch ID and not have gestures and not have Face ID, and you're comfortable with a dated design like this one, then you're probably going to be fine with iOS 15 or iOS 16 being your last year of software updates. Because while the iPhone XR might not get another 6 years of updates, it'll still probably be a lot more modern looking and normal than the SE will. The SE and the XR cost the same here in India. So if I was in India, I'd go for the XR personally. Ethan, thank you for the 300 bits. Saw where you were having a conversation on Twitter about iMac Pro. What is the cheapest you would pay for one right now? Maybe around $3,500? That'd be a good deal. iMac Pro is great. The only thing I don't like about it is the display and the fact that it's not. They haven't changed it since 2017. I just finished a tech video before I went live. It won't drop right at the end of this because I haven't uploaded it yet, but it will drop later today. And it's kind of about the whole iMac lineup as a whole. But yeah, iMac Pro is solid. It's a lot better aging product than a MacBook because there's no battery and it's not mobile. So for the majority of its life, it's just kind of sitting there. And there's not that much that can wear out because everything on the iMac Pro is SSD. There are fans in it, but they do a really good job of keeping quiet and keeping everything cool, running at lower temperatures. So yeah, something like if you were able to get a base model iMac Pro for $3,500, I'd say that's a great deal. Maybe there's someone who compares it to the 27-inch iMac, or there's rumors that the iMacs are getting refreshed this year, so I hope that comes with a design upgrade. I really do, but yeah, I think iMac Pro is decent for 2020. But as you guys can see in my background, it's not my primary display. I do almost everything when it comes to video editing or Twitter or browsing the internet. I do everything on that BenQ monitor. That's a 32-inch 4K screen that has HDR tech in it. I don't really care that much about the dynamic range, but it looks way better. It looks way better than my iMac Pro display. And also that BenQ monitor has built-in speakers that are front-facing, and they sound a lot better than the iMac Pro speakers, in my opinion. So that's why I use that screen. That's at the center of my workstation. The iMac Pro is still powering everything, but the BenQ is what I enjoy looking at the most. If you want to find the link to that BenQ monitor, just go to my channel and look at the channel trailer. I have my desk tour, and it'll have a link to it there. So they're not a sponsor or anything, but you can find it there if you want it. Let's see. Are you reviewing the Pixel Buds? I saw those just dropped today. I don't think so. They don't look very compelling to me. They don't seem terrible. I just don't know why you would go with those over something like Galaxy Buds. If I was on Android, I would go with Galaxy Buds. Those sound great and they're reasonably priced and they have decent features. Why would you spend AirPods money on something that isn't AirPods? I don't know. Like, the only reason I would go with something like AirPods or AirPods Pro over Galaxy Buds is for the iOS ecosystem and, compatibility and continuity support, being able to open the charge case and have it pop up right next to the iPhone. But if you're on Android and you're looking for wireless earbuds, they're not the best. I mean, the sound quality might be good on them, but still, Galaxy Buds or Galaxy Buds Plus are not bad. Those are great headphones, great value. And there's also, if you're on Android and you don't care about the Apple ecosystem support anyway, you have so many options when it comes to wireless earbuds. You have so much to choose from that I don't know why you would want to spend $180 on earbuds like that. Like, what do they have? Honestly, is it the Google Assistant? Because you can make that the default digital assistant on Galaxy Buds if you wanted to. You can default that, so that's the voice assistant that accesses it. So yeah, I don't see the point in me reviewing them. I would probably just try them and be like, yeah, sound pretty good. I wouldn't buy them. Don't buy them. That would be most of the review. But I think you should check the Pixel Buds. They don't look terrible. I really want to know if it's another Pixel stand. No, that's something way easier to review objectively without buying the product. The Pixel stand is it's just you don't have to buy it to understand why it's nice. It's just the charge light turns off, which so many wireless charging companies don't do. The design of it is simple. You can look at it. I'm looking at it right now because it's on top of my Mac Mini. It's the only made by Google product that actually looks good. It's just very simple. You have one round pad. It's very thin, very unique and clean looking. It charges via USB-C on the bottom, and the charge light turns off. You can charge I can charge my phone horizontally or vertically. It just does everything right. It's just insanely expensive. The only reason I have this is because it was sent to me by Google for free, which was nice of them, and I like it. But if I had to buy a wireless charger, no, I would not. I would not spend $80 on this. Same thing with the Pixel Buds. It's like I'm sure they sound fine. I can't seem to find any type of exclusive feature that they have that you can't find in cheaper earbuds. Like I said, my go-to, I reviewed the Galaxy Buds. Those are my go-to if I had to use wireless earbuds on Android. Use something that's built by the company of the phone you're using so that they have the little pop-up animation when you open it next to them. And I bet the Pixel Buds do that on the Pixel phone. But who has a Pixel phone? So, I mean, you can make the Google Assistant your main assistant, but then Google can't track all of your data. Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's a good reason to go with Pixel Buds then. They didn't sound great. I mean, didn't they? It's $180 and the battery life is 5 hours per bud. I thought the whole argument Galaxy Buds had over AirPods was that Galaxy Buds have like 9 hours of battery life per bud outside of the charge case. They can go like 9 hours at a time. That's a great reason to go with them if you care about that kind of thing. So no, they don't seem compelling or interesting to me. It just seems like Google's like we can do it too. We can do earbuds. See? Just took us 3 years. They basically made exactly what Apple made in 2016. A couple of differences being USB-C and it's wireless charging capable, but Apple's had that since March of 2019. So it's once again like Pixel coming out with hardware that's not special or unique in any kind of way. 2.5 hour talk time. Yeah, that's not great. I guess AirPods win in that scenario. You should buy the Pixel Buds to review, then return them. Yeah, it's not even worth that. That's too much time. It's not worth a video. Did you see the ARM MacBook leaks saying that it's a 12-core variant of the A14 chip? I did see that. Sounds believable. Sounds like something that I would expect from an ARM MacBook. I just hope it comes out this year. I also saw reports saying that the 12-core variant is coming next year. And I'm like, no, that's too long. Come on. Come out this year. Come out in June. Let's get it at Dub. AirPods still have the best battery. Excuse me, I got hiccups. AirPods still have the best battery when you combine the earbuds batteries with the case battery. Aren't the Pixel Buds pretty close, though? They're like 24 hours with the case, but that's not a good reason to go with them. I mean, in this case, you actually have a cheaper option if you go with AirPods because they have an optional non-wireless charging case, and that's cheaper than Pixel Buds. So, they seem fine. There's just not enough reason to go with them over anything else because there's a lot better options out there. Let's see. Whoa, 200 bits from Chris Norton. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. He's just said have some bits. ARM MacBook with a 12 core would be really, really interesting. I have a 2016 MacBook Air. I want a new device, so should I buy the new 2020 MacBook Air with an i5 chip, or should I wait for the new MacBook Pro 14 or 13 inch? Or the 12.9-inch iPad Pro with Magic Keyboard. I love your videos. I've been here since you reviewed the iPhone 6 smart battery case. Whoa! Yoshi, that was a long time ago. Jeez. Let's see. You're looking at three options. You got 2020 MacBook Air versus the 14-inch MacBook Pro refresh. That's probably going to be 13 inches. And you're also considering the iPad Pro 12.9 with Magic Keyboard case. Having used, you can see it in the background there, having used the Magic Keyboard case with the iPad Pro, if there's not some software reason you need a Mac, which I'm sure there are for some people, whether it's a program that you need for school or something's on Mac OS that you just can't get on the iPad, if you're just doing it for basic stuff, whether it be web browsing, text editing, email, or watching videos, or simple stuff like that, I would highly recommend going with an iPad if you can. Like, the only time I would say someone should get a Mac is if there's some type of software reason your iPad can't cut it. But I have loved using that thing as a laptop. Having the keyboard and trackpad now, and it's 120 hertz, and I have Face ID, which is way better than any biometric. And you also have really, really good cameras on the iPad Pro versus the garbage webcam on the MacBooks. The speakers on it are great. The refresh rate is great. The cameras are great. The battery's actually a lot better, I think, than it would be on a MacBook, especially considering it's 120 hertz. And just like a cheap MacBook Pro or just like a MacBook Air, you have two USB-C ports, so you can charge it from either side, unlike the MacBook Air, which you can only charge from one side, so that's an advantage the iPad has. So having used the Magic Keyboard case, I know it's expensive. I know you guys say, get the Bridge Pro type keyboard, it's only $200. It just doesn't do half the features. Yeah, you can go with that if you want. But the main reason I love that keyboard case is it's so incredibly simple to go into tablet mode if you want to. And I'm not really that big into cases. I don't use cases on my phones, and I like using the iPad. In fact, before I had the keyboard case and I just had the standard, it's right here. Before I just had a standard iPad folio cover, I would actually take this off of my iPad if I was going to be using it just in touch mode. Pretty much the only time I had the iPad in this case was if it was at my desk and I wanted it to prop upright so that I could work on video thumbnails or browse things without having to hold it. But if I knew I was going to be somewhere and I was going to hold the iPad, I would just pull this thing off. And they make the iPad so easy to take out of that case that I just love using the iPad without anything on it. It's thin and it's light, and it just feels more personal that way. And then if you want to get work done and you want to type and you want to be precise with a cursor or with an Apple Pencil, you have that case and you can charge it from either end. Love that accessory. Love it. I can't wait to review it and tell everyone how great it is, but I know it has some shortcomings. The viewing angles aren't that flexible, and there's no function keys, and there's no volume control and display brightness and that kind of thing. There's some limitations. Can the iPhone 11 shoot portrait of everything? Yeah, I think it can. Isn't it? I forget. I know the iPhone XR can only take portraits of people, but can't the iPhone 11 take a portrait mode of anything? I think it can. I don't know. I don't have an iPhone 11 on me. I know it has dual camera, but that's what made me think it can do that of anything. Do you think the iPad mini will get a design refresh similar to the XR or iPhone 11, and how much do you think it will impact the cost? If there is an iPad mini refresh, it's not probably coming soon. I feel like we would have heard about it by now. I hope it gets a design change. Like, it would be great if they took the iPad Pro design and just brought it to the iPad mini form factor. I don't think it needs to look like an iPhone 11 or an iPhone XR, but just making it look more like an iPad Pro with USB-C. Maybe they would have to make a smaller version of the Apple Pencil if it's charging on the side. But Face ID in that form factor and everything would be really, really nice. I just think that the iPad mini is not popular enough for them to do that this year, though there have been some rumors that they're working on a mini LED version of the iPad Pro and the iPad mini, and the iPad Pro. But that's not coming till next year, so don't expect that to come out in 2020. Let's see. I've been wanting to use my iPhone 11 Pro without a case, but I don't know how the matte back scratches with everyday carry. Is it any better than the old clear glass iPhones? Yes, it's much better. I've not put a case on my 11 Pro Max, like, hardly at all. If I have put a case on it, it's only been for like a day or two. The rest of the time it's been out of its case, and I drop it on tables and hard surfaces, and it's no scratches. Looks great. Where is it? It's right over here. I'm not using it right now, but it looks fantastic. The matte glass, the frosted glass, does not age bad at all. In fact, it ages way, way better than the glossy back of the iPhone 11 or the iPhone XS Max. That would show scratches way easier. Like the front of my phone, that's a different story. But the back, this ages really, really well. That's some tough frosted glass. They did it way better than, however, the Pixel 3 did it. So, yeah, I would highly recommend using frosted glass. Let's see. Apple managed to create a matte back that doesn't scratch, and Google was amazed. Yeah. Hopefully they can figure that out in the Pixel 5 or whatever. Or hopefully, even better, the Pixel 5 doesn't exist. That'd be even cooler. The iPad Mini and iPad Air will probably be updated next spring. Maybe. I still think there's a chance the iPad Air will get updated this year. I still think that's possible. There's rumors of it brewing now. My guess is that it would be in September, probably at the iPhone event, is when they would recycle the iPad Pro from 2018 and refresh it into um, iPad Air 4, but it would just be it would look like an iPad Pro from now, but it would scale down on all the specs. No ProMotion, no stereo speakers. It would still have USB-C and it would still have Face ID, but it wouldn't have LiDAR and the dual camera. Probably rocking a 13 chip or something like that, but yeah. Um, the mouse case is OtterBox, but then, nah, I don't like cases. And I don't get to feel the phone. The phones feel nice. The phones feel really cool in the hand. I don't want to cover that up with plastic. Should I buy the AirPods Pro or wait for new AirPods? What's coming? Yeah, it's hard to know. It's kind of up in the air right now. There's a bunch of rumors suggesting that there's going to be a ton of AirPods this year, like a bunch of AirPods refreshes. Um, I think if you're looking at AirPods Pro, it's probably an okay time to buy them. Like I did a video on Gen 3 AirPods dropping next month, which several fairly decent leakers are suggesting is coming, but at the same time, like those are not going to be better than AirPods Pro. If Gen 3 AirPods are coming out, they're probably going to be like slightly better battery life and cheaper. I don't think it's going to impact the pricing of AirPods Pro, which if you're into AirPods Pro for the active noise cancellation and transparency mode, I don't think Gen 3 AirPods are going to have that. It's mainly just going to be a spec boost or a slight design tweak. Not going to be much. Let's see. As a 10S owner, do you see the iPhone 12 being a solid upgrade, or do these rumors of the portless, notchless 2021 iPhone make it a better idea to wait? No, I don't think waiting makes a lot of sense at all. In fact, I think the iPhone 12 is more than likely going to be more of a super cycle year. I think this is going to be a year that gets a lot of people to come out and upgrade because there's so many changes happening this year between design change, which is all we can really have this year. If you're wondering when there's going to be a big functional, huge upgrade that everyone notices, they're going to get smaller and smaller. They're running out of things to add to the iPhone. I wouldn't believe the claims that there's going to be a notchless iPhone in 2021. I honestly don't think they're going to be. I don't think the notch is going to be gone by next year. I still think there will be one. In fact, knowing that the iPhone 12 is going to have the first 5 nanometer A14 chip, the squared off edges, more than likely a smaller notch of some kind, probably camera improvements with the LiDAR sensor, a design change finally so things look different. I think that's going to bring out a lot of people to upgrade because you're going to have noticeably higher performance, which may allow for certain features I don't know about yet, but you'll also have a noticeably different looking iPhone compared to what we have now. Whereas, the past 3 years of iPhone upgrades, design wise, when it comes to the front and the sides, not much has changed. If you know what you're looking for on the back, it looks different. But when it comes to just the edges being curved and the front having a notch and the bezel width and everything, that really hasn't changed since the iPhone 10 in 2017. So this is the first year I think all of that is changing, and Apple's really, really good at marketing. The pictures and press images they had of the iPhone SE on the website when this thing launched made this thing look so dang cool and futuristic, and yet it's so old and it's such a boring, like, basic design. And at the same time, they just found a way to make it look cool and desirable, and people are like, wow, that looks really nice. I kind of want one. And if they're able to do that with a design that's over 5 years old, imagine what they can do with a brand new design that we haven't seen yet. Taking that iPhone 5 style approach. A lot of people were excited and pumped when the iPhone 4 came out. That was going from curved edges to squared off. There were some internal camera upgrades and spec upgrades, but for the most part, when there's design changes, more people come out. Notice I didn't bring up 5G during all that. I think 2020 will be a good solid year to upgrade, personally. I don't think there's going to be much. I'm really confused with what they're going to do in 2021. I'm trying to think of something that's going to make it worth it. Portless isn't a good answer. Well, there's no charge port now. Yay! Upgrade your phone. Like, it's more of like a statement Apple would be making about standards and the future of technology more than it would be a feature. Kind of like removing the headphone jack on the iPhone 7 wasn't really a selling point. That was just something, it's kind of a statement being made. It boosted the battery life a little bit. Maybe they'll get that. So the battery life will be slightly better in 2021. But yeah, no. I think 12 will be a good upgrade to make. Do you think we could see a $750 ARM MacBook since Apple is going to want a lot of sales to encourage developers? That's an interesting question. We haven't really talked much about the price. I've heard that a lot of the reason Apple Mac products are so expensive is because of all of the third-party hardware that they have to buy from between, AMD for the GPUs and Intel for the CPUs. That can cause the price to go up quite substantially. You notice how big the price gap is between 13-inch MacBook Pro and 16-inch MacBook Pro because it has dedicated GPU in it. So if they removed all that and they could actually design their CPUs and GPUs in-house, maybe they could lower the price to get faster adoption. But at the same time, I feel like they would rather the iPad Pro and the iPad lineup kind of dominate the larger screen computer sales of under $1,000. And if you're willing to spend over $1,000, they'll probably just want you to get a Mac or a really, really nice iPad. So that's my guess. It's because, like the best iPad Pro starts at $1,000 and the cheapest iPad is, $300. But like the cheapest MacBook starts at $1,000 and then goes up from there. So my guess is that when they're designing the ARM Mac, they want it to be around the same price point of a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, but just have insanely better performance than those instead of making, a $700 MacBook. I don't think that's what it's going to be, personally. They could if they didn't prioritize performance in it, but I don't think that's the angle they're going to take it with. I think they're going to, based on the leaks we're hearing now of, a 12-core A14 chip in a Mac, that doesn't sound like something they would price at $750. That sounds like a $1,000 plus Mac product. Tim Cook said iPhone 10 will lead the next 10 years of iPhone, so no notch iPhone in 2027. Yeah, I think if anyone uses an iPhone with a notch, you know how little difference it makes. I mean, shrinking it would be kind of futuristic and you would notice it for the first 5 minutes, but you would ultimately use your phone exactly the same way. It wouldn't really change that much. Let's see. Midnight Green will be replaced by Navy Blue. Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that, so it's probably safe to assume. I'm a 7 Plus user and waiting for the new design. Yeah, I think that'll be noticeable. I think the iPhone 12 design we're about to get is probably going to be the next 3 years of iPhone design. If they're going with the squared off edges and everything, that's probably going to be what it is for the next 3 years, at least. Maybe longer, depending on, we switched from squared off edges to rounded edges with the iPhone 6. That was 2014. So that was like 6 years now, and we still have got curved edges. So maybe the squared off edges could be another 6 years. Who knows? Do I listen to any podcasts? If so, which one? I listen to the H3 podcast quite a bit. That's the only one I listen to that regularly. Not much else, though. I tune into Joe Rogan occasionally. Not very regularly, though. And who else do I listen to? I feel like that's mostly it. Not that many podcasts, I guess, on my end. If the 2021 iPhone is portless, they need another compelling feature to convince people the compromise of no port is worth it. Yeah, that's why I have my doubts that the 2020 iPhone is going to be portless. I don't doubt that there's prototypes testing that, but, there's people saying right now, Apple's going to release a portless iPhone in 2021, and I'm like, I don't think they've decided on that yet. There's so much time between now and when they have to start mass producing the 2021 iPhone that I don't think they have that type of concrete goal in place yet. I don't think they have that many steps in place ahead of schedule. So they could, but I don't think it's been decided internally. I bet the same debates we're having about a portless iPhone, Apple is having those same debates internally. Some people probably really want it, and other people think it's a horrible idea. But I do agree, you're right. It would take some type of really, really compelling feature to make people think that it's worthy of an upgrade. Like, especially if, consider this, I really, really hope we get 120 hertz on the Pro iPhones this year. If we have 120 hertz on this year's iPhone and Face ID and good cameras and, thinner bezels and thinner notch and all that, new design squared off, what's going to be the reason to upgrade in 2021? If we have all that now, it's going to be really tough. So that's what makes me think possibly Apple's not going to do 120 hertz this year because they want to leave room for an upgrade in 2021. Like, I really, really want it now, but because we're not getting that many leaks or rumors about it, it makes me think that this year they're just going to keep it at 60 hertz, which I will be super, super disappointed by if they do that. But it sounds like that's something that they will do. But yeah, what would they do after that? It'd be really, really hard to think of something. What do I think will be after the squared design? I don't know. Every 6 years they go back to curved. Then they'll make it look like the iPhone 6, and because we're so used to the squared off design, that'll be like a fresh new look. So we'll be like, oh, cool. My main question is, what will the 2021 iPhone be named? iPhone 12s Pro Max? Yeah, I know it's a mouthful, but iPhone 13 Pro Max doesn't sound great either. It wouldn't make sense to sell a 12-inch ARM MacBook at a price higher than a MacBook Air because you are reaching the Pro market. An ARM MacBook would be more for students or people with sort of basic use or people who only use standard Apple applications. No, I disagree completely, Yusuf. I think that if you're using a Mac, if you're using it for standard stuff and not anything that pro or high-end, Apple would want you to go with an iPad. They wouldn't want you to go with a MacBook because that's where they see more more flexibility and more, versatile use cases with the iPad. If it's a MacBook, they want more high-end pro applications. And if you're introducing ARM to the Mac, they want to showcase the type of insane performance and capabilities you can have when Apple is designing the internal hardware. So I think it'll be, if the rumors are true about an A14 chip, they're not going to put an A14 chip into a MacBook for basic student use for just text editing and stuff like that. I think that's the iPad market, the iPad Airs and the, lower end cheaper iPads is what basic students should use if you don't really need that much high intensive work. It would go with the MacBook Air. It's just Apple's never sold a MacBook under $1,000 in a long, long time, and I don't think that's the point of ARM, is to make MacBooks cheaper. I think it's to make their performance through the roof and to get them off of Intel so they don't have to rely on their CPUs as much. They'll be able to save money, but I don't think they're going to push that off to the consumer and make overall MacBooks way cheaper. I think it's just going to be the same price as MacBooks currently, but with way more processing power. What happened to the iPhone XS naming bet you had on TLD? I don't know. I reached out to him a couple of times about things related to the bet, and he just kind of stopped responding to me. So I don't know. He must have been. He's a busy guy, so no hate towards John, but it was just he stopped responding to me. Apple sold the MacBook for $1,200. Expect an ARM 12-inch MacBook to be there. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't think the whole selling point of, they made ARM CPUs faster and faster and more higher performing, but that didn't make the iPads much cheaper. I mean, we got the cheaper iPad, but at the same time, iPad Pros got more and more expensive. When the iPad first came out, it was $500. Now, iPad Pros are $800 to $1,000, and I don't think an ARM CPU. Maybe down the road, maybe later on, they'll take older ARM CPUs and put them in the Mac and make them cheaper. That could happen later, but I don't think that'll be the first one. Usually, with the first one, you want to kick butt and showcase all developers what kind of insane performance you can get out of it. What about Thunderbolt with no Intel? Yeah, they'll just use USB 4, which is essentially Thunderbolt 3 except open source. So, yeah, typically to have Thunderbolt 3, you need kind of a Intel x86 architecture. That's why the iPad Pro doesn't have Thunderbolt 3. But there is this new standard called USB 4, so not USB 3.0 or USB 3.1. USB 4 is the same exact shape of Thunderbolt 3. It's USB Type-C, and it has almost equivalent speeds, transfer speeds of data and power. The difference is it's USB which means anyone can use it. You don't need Intel for USB 4, which means that you can use USB 4 on things like an ARM architecture and still get all the speed benefits of Thunderbolt 3. So it really comes down to just a branding difference. USB 4 is just the open source version of Thunderbolt 3. I just watched Unbox Therapy's video. Don't buy the SE. I think the SE is a copy-paste iPhone 8 with a low-resolution screen and front camera. Apple could have done better. They can do better. They have done better. It's called the iPhone XR or the iPhone 11. If you want better screen, better cameras, better hardware, they make iPhones for that. The whole purpose of the SE is to reuse your old iPhones with updated internals. That's what the last one was. That's what this one was. If you don't understand that, you don't get the point of the SE. If you wanted a new design and you wanted a bigger display and you wanted hardware differences, that's what the September iPhones are for. Okay, that's a different demographic, but there is a huge audience of people that love the SE and are gonna buy it and use it for a long, long time because you can get into the ecosystem for way, way cheaper. You're gonna get software updates longer than any Android you can buy today. Okay, this $400 phone is gonna be getting software updates when your Galaxy S20 Ultra that you spent $1,500 on has been discontinued, or your $2,000 Galaxy Fold. That's going to be discontinued and not be getting software updates when this thing will be. So that's the difference you get when you're buying an iPhone. You know you're getting that long term. And also, I have no complaints with the resolution of this display. My issues with the display come with the bezels, which are not an issue for a lot of people because they've been using an iPhone 6 or 7 for a long time and they just haven't upgraded yet. Maybe Androids don't understand that, but people use older iPhones because they still work and they still get software updates. Whereas maybe your Android doesn't do that, so you have to upgrade it more regularly. This is why people will oftentimes keep an iPhone because of the resale value and the longevity and the software and customer support you get with that. So that's why there's a lot of people this phone is meant for. If you want those other things, whether it be dual camera or bigger display or higher resolution, go with a 10R. Go with a refurbished 10S or go with an iPhone 10. They make phones that do those things, just not at that price point. If you want an iPhone that's $400 with good specs, this is it. If you don't like the hardware that this comes with, they make phones that are better for that reason. But they cost more to make. Let's see. I'm waiting for USB-C iPhones. It's possible you would be waiting forever because I think it's fairly plausible that Apple will go portless before they go USB-C. Your eye literally can't distinguish the pixels and all extra pixels after that point and drain the battery. I don't get this argument. It's more of a tech specy thing. You know, if you told people that the iPhone SE had a 1080p display, they would probably believe you. If Apple just lied, like who is counting? Does anyone literally put these displays under a microscope and actually count to make sure that the resolutions are accurate? Not that many. Not that many. I think the iPhone 7 still has another 4 years of support because the iPad 7 and the A10 and only came out 7 months ago. I don't know. That's a long time, though. Is there a RAM difference between the iPhone 7 and the iPad 7? I don't know. Is there a difference? Because the iPhone 6 didn't get iOS 13, but the iPad Mini 4 did because it had enough RAM. They both had the A8 chip, but they didn't have the same amount of RAM. I don't know, just iPhone 7 came out in 2016, so getting another 4 years would mean 8 years of support. That would be amazing, and I won't say it's impossible, but I don't know if it's likely. I guess it depends on where they go with iOS, because if they just kind of tweak it and provide additional features here and there and they don't really overhaul the user interface that much, it could probably get something like that, a crazy, 8 years of software updates. That seems over the top, though. I can't think of another iPhone that's ever lasted that long, so I'd be kind of surprised if it got 8 years. But if what's that redesign people have wanted for a long time? Like if they updated iOS to have a completely new look, like neomorphism or something, and gave it more of a complete overhaul redesign, then maybe they would discontinue something that couldn't handle it. Maybe in the future the A10 chip won't be able to handle it reliably or something like that. Okay, so there you go. iPhone 7 has 2 gigs of RAM, iPad 7 has 3. So there's your answer for why the iPad 7 might be getting a few more years of software support than the iPhone 7 does. So they'll continue supporting the A10 chip as long as it has 3 gigs of RAM, whereas iPhone 7 does not, so it might get discontinued first. So iPad has 3 gigs of RAM. Okay. Pixel Buds 2 are getting stellar reviews. I'm mad because I'm on the first gen Buds. Everyone keeps dissing the Buds 2 review. I don't know why you would get the Buds 2 over something like Galaxy Buds, though. Why get Pixel Buds? Like, I know everyone wants to compare them to AirPods for some reason because those are completely different markets. But, I mean, why not compare them to other Android earbuds? Samsung probably moves way more phones than Google does, so if you want that compatibility and that continuity, go with Galaxy Buds. 6th gen has 2 gigs of RAM. Yeah, but does that have the A10 chip? I forget. Yeah, I think it does. I think it still has the A10. What type of gaming chair are you using? It's the PewDiePie chair, dude. It's the PewDiePie chair. Come on. What do you think of an iPhone 11 Pro the size of the 2020 iPhone SE? It's not for me, but I bet a lot of people would like it. What you're basically describing, kinda, is the iPhone 12 small configuration that's coming out this year, the 5.4-inch model, which will be, I think, actually a smaller footprint than this. If we do the math on the size of a 5.4-inch phone with thin bezels and Face ID and everything, I don't even think it'll be this small. It'll be smaller than a tad bit smaller than the SE. Some people will really like that because I know a lot of people that prefer smaller phones, and they don't need those massive displays. And especially in the world where Android just keeps making displays bigger and bigger and bigger, and they kind of ignored the smaller screen market. There would be a lot of people really happy with that phone, but it's not me. I want the big screen. So I would be happy if they made it, but I would not use it for myself. Do you think the Apple headphones will be hi-fi grade, good for audiophiles? I'm guessing it's going to be like the HomePod. Like, the audio quality will be really, really good, but the connectivity will be super limited, so you can't really use them for audio editing and stuff like that. But they'll probably be more targeting like the Bose 700 series, which I don't know if Apple's going to let you plugged into them directly. If I were in charge, I would say they should be an audiophile type headphone that can support, super high speed audio, low latency, if you want to do a wired connection and make it kind of a Mac accessory and not so much an iPhone accessory. But when I pitched that in my video, everyone disagreed and said, no, this is going to be like Beats. This is going to be just basically for using with your iPhone, listening to music and watching videos, and it's going to be all wireless. It's not going to be about audiophiles and audio quality and stuff like that. So that's probably what's going to happen, but it's not what I think should happen. Thank you for the 500 bits, Matt K, 1201. Appreciate that. Didn't say anything, but thanks anyway. What's your daily driver, phone and headphones? Well, I'm testing the SE, but I'm not keeping it. I'm gonna use this for probably a week or so, and then send it back. But after that, I of course have my 11 Pro Max. That's my daily, my favorite phone ever. Love using this thing. And for headphones, I typically will use either AirPods Pro or AirPods 2. Usually AirPods Pro, especially when mowing the lawn. Do you want to be the CEO of Apple? No, that sounds hard and frustrating. I would not want that pressure responsibility on me. When will there be a MacBook Pro 16-inch update? Because the new Intel CPU would be ready. Yeah, I'm considering it. Pretty much, I think whenever they update the 16-inch MacBook Pro with the new Intel CPUs, they launch the 10th gen, I'll probably get that one. But I don't know. Some people think it could happen next month when the 13-inch MacBook Pro comes out, but I've seen other people say, other reports claiming it's not going to be until October. Or maybe it'll happen at Dub. I don't know. There's a bunch of times it could happen, but given the 16-inch MacBook Pro launched in October, maybe it makes sense to wait till then to refresh it again. Yeah, Louise does not want to pay for another iPhone. If we got a free iPhone SE, that would be something else, but she doesn't want to spend a penny on her phone until it's completely dead. So next month is the 13-inch, not 14-inch. The 14-inch has not been confirmed. We don't know if that's really happening or not. I mean, the 14-inch thing was kind of made up because the 15-inch MacBook Pro got a little bit bigger. So that made people think, oh, so there must be a 14-inch one coming. But in reality, there's probably a Magic Keyboard and a internal update coming to the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but it might not be a bigger display because no one is claiming it's going to be 14-inch. Everyone keeps saying it's just a 13-inch, kind of like the MacBook Air. It got the Magic Keyboard, it got updated internals, but the screen didn't change. So that's why I'm guessing 14-inch MacBook Pro, probably not a thing. It'll just be updated 13-inch MacBook Pro. Disappointing, I know, but that's what the rumors are saying. If I were in charge, I would say 14-inch MacBook Pro all the way, but I'm not in charge. So anyway, I got to upload this video, and I've got some other channels to work on. So thank you guys for your donations, your Twitch Primes. It's been fun. It's been real, but I'm about to sign off. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.